second. Let me start my, okay, perfect. There we go. Share screen. This morning, I was re-listening to some of the John Maxwell stuff for preparing for today. And man, there are some good nuggets. I'm like, I love my dad and all, but Melvin Maxwell as a dad was like, John won like the parent lotto with that. So many good ones. Oh, I see David on. Good morning. Good morning. Jen, thanks for my mask. I wore it all day yesterday. Okay, so what is one thing that you guys are grateful for today? Type it in the chat. And I'll tell you one thing I'm grateful for is the opportunity to be able to network. Because I actually, right after this at 9:30, I'm having a virtual coffee appointment with Jay Papasan. Papasan. I know, isn't that crazy? I never know how to say his last name properly, so I'll have to ask him on today. But so I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to have that time with him after this and ask him great questions. So I have my whole list of questions prepared. So okay, I know you guys are grateful. Long weekend to reset. Yes, perfect. I was very grateful for that too. Actually took a little time this weekend too. Amy, happy belated birthday. I think I saw it was your birthday. Yes, was it? Okay, happy belated birthday. Okay, I know you guys have to be thankful for something for sure. Oh, David, we're grateful for you. Perfect. Also, when you guys type in the chat what you're grateful for, that's how I know that you're here, because I can't see everybody. I can only see like a couple of people. So I love to see who's on by seeing you guys in the chat. Okay, so we're going to continue, and there's quite a few today. So I'm going to roll kind of quickly. We're going to continue part 2 with John Maxwell's lessons from his dad, Melvin Maxwell. So in case you weren't on last time, we shared, I don't remember. I think 1 through 13. We'll find out here in just 1 second. This is John and his dad. Here's the list of the podcast. Yeah, we shared 1 through 13 last time. So today we're going to push through 14 through 29. And man, these are some good ones. So I'm going to get rolling on these. Oopsie, hold on, let me go back. Okay, so number 14, where we picked up, was his lesson that he learned from his dad was to live a generous life. And I love the quote that he shared on this one. He said, be a river, not a reservoir. And he said what that means is let the resources that you get in your life that you're blessed to get pass through you. Don't hold on to them. And he gives this analogy of like having closed hands versus open hands, because when your hands are closed, you can't receive things, right? So you're holding on to your things because your hands are closed. And when your hands are closed, you don't have the opportunity for someone to drop things into your hands. But when your hands are open and your gifts and your blessings are being passed out through your hands, then your hands are open so that you can receive from others. So he says, obviously, if you're a person of faith, tithing is always important. He shared this story about how his dad gave them $1 allowance every single week. And he said that he gave it to them in dimes though, so that they could divide it out. And so they would give 1 dime for tithing, I think it was two or 3 dimes for savings, and then the other dimes they would keep. And he said that one day they went to church, and he tells the story of his brother, and he said his brother came back and they got in the car, and he said, Dad, I didn't give a dime today. And his dad, Melvin, said, oh, you didn't? Well, why not? And he said, because I actually gave a quarter. And he said, oh, you did? And he said, yeah, God's done so many great things in my life this week. I felt like he deserved more. And John said he remembered that his whole entire life, because honestly, now his brother is a very large entrepreneur. And he's actually donated like millions of dollars back to charities. And so he said that he always remembers that because he just remembers his dad instilling that into them since they were little and living a very generous life. And I thought the dime story was pretty cute too. Number 15, for people of faith, he said, give God the credit. Just always remember he's the source, so he gets all the credit in your life if you're a person of faith. You're not doing stuff by yourself. Those are your gifts, and they're actually greater than you. And he said that that's why they're called a gift, because we didn't earn them. And honestly, we really don't deserve them. So they're a gift. And so we have to treat our gifts with respect, and we have to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do, which is passing them on to other people. Number 16 is love people. He said all of these lessons are around loving people. It's not easy, but you can do it. And I laughed when he said this one, because has anybody but me had a day where you haven't loved people? And I actually really do love people, but there are days where I'm like, okay. And it was funny because my friend Paige Paxton Pugh texted me last night at like, I was still working, but at like 11:40, and said, you have to read this book, Indistractable, How You Control Your Attention and Choose Your Life. And I said, oh, okay, well, I'm finishing reading Help, I Work with People. So when I get done with that, I'll move on to that one. And she said, oh my gosh, I need that. I'm starting to hate people. Is that terrible? And she said, I'm just kidding, but it's been one of those days. And so I laughed because I remembered this, because some days it's not easy to love people. It's easy to love some people, but not to love all people. And so that one was just a good reminder. And then 17, the biggest lesson, one of the biggest lessons that John's dad taught him was to love and read God's word. And actually thought of Tyler Dickerhoof, our guest who we had on a couple weeks ago when I listened to this morning. So his dad read through the entire Bible 87 times. Can you believe that? John said, I'll never do that. So I cannot live up to what my dad was. But he does challenge you, whether you're a person of faith or not. He says reading the Bible will teach you something. And so he challenged everyone to do the Proverbs challenge, which is to just read one proverb a day for 31 days. And I started doing this right now, and it's really simple. If you have the Bible app, like every single morning you log on and it just gives you a proverb. If you do the proverb challenge, it's like the easiest thing ever. And now they have these little stories that you can do too. So I don't want to scroll too much into that, but it like gives you I know you can't see that. It gives you can you see that? No. Oh, like your verse of the day. Can you see it now, Stephanie? And then at the morning, they have this story now that you can watch, and it gives like, it's like 2 minutes, but you can, oh, sorry, there you go. But you can read it. So anyway, he challenges you to do the Proverbs challenge and to read one proverb a day for 31 days. Number 18 is to be intentional. Let me just check the chat really fast. Stephanie. Yep, been there, done that. He challenges you to be intentional. And he said, if you just accept your life instead of being purposeful, you're not living the best life. Because if you prepare, you don't have to repair. Meaning if we don't live right today and prioritize the day, tomorrow we're repairing what we didn't do. So he talks a lot about preparing and being intentional the night before. My word of the year for 2020, believe it or not, was intentional. And it's like, I don't know if you can see this, but it's like starting to rip to shreds and come unraveled. But I ordered this bracelet at the end of last year and I put it on January 1st. It's called an intentional bracelet. It's really teeny tiny. It's just these little beads, but it's just supposed to remind you that when you look at it, like to be intentional. And I really wanted to be more intentional this year. And you can like Google intentional bead bracelet and they'll pop up like everywhere, I think. But I'm so upset because mine's starting to come apart and I'm like, okay, I got September, October, November. I got 4 more months to be able to keep this bracelet on. But it's made the biggest difference, not the bracelet, being intentional has made the biggest difference this year. And I'm so glad that I chose that word, because with everything that's happened and with COVID, man, I've had to be really more intentional, and honestly more intentional with just making time for the things that matter. Hopefully I'm not the only person out of the 40 or so of you on here that sometimes can not be purposeful with your time and you can work too much. And so being intentional with the time that matters. But I love what he says, being intentional just even about tomorrow, like the night before. Be intentional about your day, the next day. Number 19 is to see the best in others. This kind of goes with the loving people. And so John said, everyone has 2 sides. Everyone has a downside. So spoiler alert, none of us are perfect, right? We all have issues. We all have we all have a downside. We all have something that's not perfect about us. But what John's dad taught him was it's actually what you look for. So we could look for I'm going to use her because I can, Heather. I could look for the downside of Heather, honestly, although she doesn't really have very many. But I could look for the downside in Heather and pick at that every single day and say, oh, that's like the one thing that she sucks at. Or we can choose to look for the positive in people, or we can choose to look for their good side and look past the downsides. What you look for is what you see, and what you see is how you treat people. And that is a big, big lesson. If you see the best in others, you'll bring out the best in others, and you'll receive the best from others too. And that's a big piece of this, because what you see is based on who you are. And I think this is kind of a deep one, but John says we don't see people as they are, we see people as we are. So if you can't get you right, if I can't get me right, then you're not going to see that, right? You're not going to see the best in other people. And I think this is just a choice every day, because sometimes it's, this is a total just judgmental story, and hopefully you guys won't judge me for judging, but in part of our time to reset and relax this weekend, Adam had booked us massages. And so we went and got a massage on Monday morning, really early, like 8:30. I've never had an early morning massage, by the way. I was like still not even fully awake, and then I was tired the whole rest of the day. But anyway, I went in, and I didn't really get a lot of time to interact with my massage lady because of COVID, and all that stuff. So there's all these different restrictions. And honestly, I totally prejudged her. I prejudged her based on her appearance and the way she just was presented. She looked like she just rolled out of bed, to be honest. And just kind of just the way she carried herself. And she was coming in to do my massage, and this is at a really nice place, honestly. And she was coming in to do my massage, and she was like carrying a cupcake, I guess she was going to eat for breakfast, and she sat it down. I don't know. I just totally prejudged the whole entire situation. And I knew that I was doing it when I was doing it, but I kind of couldn't stop. And so then I was like, Dana, get a grip. So anyway, then she started to do my massage, and we started talking, and she was a talker, which I also prejudged that, because when I get a massage, I kind of like to just relax, and she was like talking the entire time. So I was like, okay, well, maybe she just needs to talk. So I was really trying. And so then come to find out, honestly, she had the most amazing story. And so she talked so much so that Adam must have been in the room next to us. And when we were walking out, he said, how was it? I said, mine was good. He said, dang, y'all talked the whole time. I said, did you hear it? He said, yeah, I could hear you guys talking the whole entire time. I was like, oh, well. But the crazy thing was I totally prejudged her, and I didn't see the good side in her at first. She has the most incredible story. She's been in Celebrate Recovery at Seacoast Church, where we go to church here in Charleston whenever I'm here. And she's been there for like 4 years, I think she said now, 3 days a week. Her story is incredible. She asked if she could pray for me. She prayed for my dad. She did I literally walked out of there and felt like so light and just amazing. And honestly, like I kind of almost cried when I was walking out, because I was like, I just totally did the thing that hopefully I'm not the only person that does, but I prejudged, and I didn't see in her what I should have for about the first 15 minutes. And then when I left, I was like, gosh, she was such a blessing to me. And she's like way higher in her faith than like I felt like I was like, then I'm starting to judge like who loves God more, and I'm like, okay, stop, get a grip. But honestly, it was just like one of those things. So hopefully I'm not the only person that's ever done that, but it was just, I don't know, it was one of those things where it just reminded me of this. So anyway, so for people that, yes, Amy, perfect words. It was a very humbling experience. Yes, it was a very humbling experience. So lesson number 20 is to maximize your gifts. And we talked about this a little bit before, but to maximize your gifts, you have to actually practice your gifts. And I would love to know if you guys, do you feel like you actually know what your gifts are? And I would say some people do, some people may not. And here's what he said: practice does not make perfect, but practice makes permanent. And so you may never be perfect at what your gifts are, but the more that you practice, you're gonna have those gifts concrete inside of you. They're gonna be permanent. And he said, when you're thinking about your gifts, you have to do 3 things: practice your gifts, evaluate what happened, and then improve it. And he said, you become a genius one tweak at a time. And I've heard John say that so many times, but I love when he said that, because it's true. We have to take little baby steps and improve on things one little tweak at a time. And that's how we can become our best. Lesson number 21 was follow God 100%. And all he literally said on this episode, on this one, was love God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, and all your strength. And when you do that, you love others also. And so he just said, just keep that in your back pocket. Lesson 22 is to prioritize your life. And he said, if you just do the main things, the top 20% of your things, and for those of you realtor KW people, this 80-20 rule you're probably thinking of right now, if you just do the main things, if you just do the top 20% of your things that you need to do in your life, then everything else will fall into place. And it kind of actually goes into the next lesson, because he said, you can't be 100% all day. And again, hopefully I'm not the only person that has tried to be 100% all day one day. You only have to be 100% for the important things, because you cannot stay 100% all day long. And remember also what John says is you only have 100% in one day. So if you do 50% of your important things, then you don't get 150%. You don't get 24 plus 12 hours the next day. You only get the same hours and the same percent the next day. So he talks about the 3 R's. And here's what he said you have to think about if you're being 100% for your important things. What's required of me? Okay, so what are the things that you are required to do every single day? It's, for a lot of you, it's probably be a parent, right? You're required to be a parent. If you have a child, you don't get to say, never mind, I'm not gonna be a parent anymore. Or it could be you're a wife or a husband, or you may be required to do certain things in your job. And then the next one is what gives me the greatest return? Because a return and a reward are two different things. And so you could even look at this financially of the things that are required of you to do, what gives you the greatest return. And then the third one would be what gives you the greatest reward, because a lot of times we can spend time doing things that they may be required of us. And they may even give you a good return, but you may not be getting rewarded from doing those things like personally. Or you might not be getting filled up. And so he says, activity is not an accomplishment. Remember that. Your goal is not to be busy. Your goal is to be effective. And when you're effective at the 100% of the important things in your life, then that's when you can feel accomplished, right? That's when you achieve your goals. And he said that for years, when he was growing up, he can remember every single day, whenever he would walk into his dad's office, he said his dad never read it to him, but he always had this plaque that was on his wall. And it said, only one life, it'll soon be past, and only what's done for God will last. And John said, I memorized that my whole life because I just saw it on this plaque on my dad's wall in his office. And he said, honestly, even that plaque taught me the biggest lesson. And he said, I've remembered it for my whole entire life. And that was actually one of my favorite things he said on all 4 episodes of these podcasts. I want to get that on a little plaque myself. But yeah, I just thought that was so great. So you can't be 100% all day. Lesson 24, don't give up and give in. And this one was really simple. And it was just don't give up. And even little things. Jen will appreciate this. I totally wanted to give up yesterday when we were doing this high-low workout class. Those of you that know me well know that working out is not my favorite thing to do. And it was they're hard as heck. Oh my gosh, they're so hard. But it was funny because I had listened to this. And so I was thinking, okay, I'm not going to give up. This is burning and this kind of is hurting. I'm just going to keep going. That's a silly example. However, in your life and bigger things, don't give up and don't give in, because he said he's never known a successful man who quit his way to the top, or woman. He's never known a successful man who quit his way to the top. And that is a powerful quote in itself. And so I just think that that's a really good one to remember. Vonna, yes, very true. Yep, Liz, totally agree. Yeah. Yep, totally agree. Okay, sorry, I'm just kind of trying to check the chat at the same time. So, okay, couple more. Lesson number 25, the importance of remembering names. This also goes with my workout story yesterday, because I have been to this place 5 times now. I think yesterday was my 5th time. Every single time, from the very first time I got there, I had never been there before. I walked in and they said, hey, you must be Dana. How are you? I'm like, oh, hi. And then yesterday, I mean, Jen, I don't know if you noticed that, but every single one of them knew us by name. I was so impressed. Adam and I got in the truck and I was like, man, that is impressive. And so John's dad always said, remembering someone's name is so important. He took John when he was like, I think he said he was in college, to a Dale Carnegie course. And he said that they taught him to put a visual object on the top of someone's head when you meet them that would relate them to their name. So John says, if your name was Steve Water, when he met you, on top of his head, he would visualize like a water or something, which I've been trying to do this, by the way, for the last week. And it's really hard because like Jen McConnell, what would you put on top of your head that reminds you? Like there's nothing that's Jen or McConnell. So it's a little harder than what it seems. However, he said the sweetest sound to a person is their name. And think about that. Like, how do you feel when someone walks in? Oh yeah. See, that isn't that crazy, Jen? Yeah, that we picked that up too. Jeff, I had an experience at the Ritz, which I remember my name. I still tell stories about it. It is incredible. I mean, it's just super powerful. So John tells a story about how he knew all 3,000 names of his members of his church in Ohio. Can you believe that? And he used this like picture and ring thing. And so basically he said, if you come to this church and you let us take your picture when you walk in, then I can promise you two things. One is I will remember your name. I will call you by name. And the second is I'll pray for you. And so he said that caught people's attention. And so he said every night, before he went to bed, he would just flip through that big ring, and it had to be huge if it had 300 pictures on it, with people's picture and their name, and that was how he memorized everybody's names. And then he said that he really did. He prayed for all of them. But that's a huge lesson, like the importance of remembering people's names. I feel like I would be curious. Type in the chat. Are you guys people who like someone can say their name one time and you remember it, or do you forget someone's name? Because I've always been taught, say their name back to them 3 times and then you'll remember their name. And I even do that. I don't know. I feel like I'm like iffy on it, but I would like to know how you guys feel like you do with remembering people's names. But that's a big lesson. Number 6 is do your best always. Do your best always. Yeah, most people forget someone's name the moment that they say their name. Yeah. Set your own bar of excellence, he says. Don't let someone else set it for you, because here's what John says. No one else should have a higher expectation of your excellence than you do for yourself. So you have to set your own bar of excellence. Don't let somebody else do it. You set it. He said, if you don't do your best, what happens? You have to go back and do it again. And if you don't go back and do it again, then really you cheated yourself and the other people that you were supposed to be doing it for. So do your best the first time. Set your own bar of excellence. And then don't just meet expectations, exceed expectations. And this is crazy. He said I don't remember what the poll was, but whatever it was, 15% of people will only meet someone's expectations. Only 5% exceed someone's expectations. And actually, Jeff, that reminds me of you talking about the Ritz. I mean, if anybody's ever stayed at a Ritz, I think it's safe to say that they exceed your expectations. They did mine, at least. But if I really think of the times that maybe I've had expectations, I don't know, but have really been exceeded, it's not very many times. I can tell you that every time I'm at a John Maxwell event, completely exceed my expectations. Like I'm wondering this year what they're going to do with COVID. And it was funny because I was talking to Linda McKissick about it, and we both were like, well, it's John, so it doesn't even matter if there's a pandemic. He's going to figure out a way to exceed everybody's expectations. So don't just meet them, exceed them. And I think this one's equally important in your business for those of you who run businesses. Think about how your clients feel if you just meet their expectations versus exceed them. Lesson 27 is to grow and better yourself. The only guarantee for a better tomorrow is if we are growing today. This is one of my biggest weaknesses when I meet somebody and they say that they are like cool where they are. They don't really need to grow, or they don't really like to learn, or they don't really like to read. That's when my horrible prejudging starts to happen. But because this is what I believe, he said, you don't go into possibilities, you grow into possibilities. When you stop growing, you die. And he says that all the time. So just think about that and I mean, obviously all of you guys are growth-based mindset, or you wouldn't be on today. And you wouldn't continue to come back and you wouldn't continue to do all the things that you do. to better yourself. But honestly, there's a lot of people that aren't. And so I tend to sometimes struggle with people like that. So I think it's just being able to show them how that happens. So then these are the last two. And I just think this one is so good. Okay. So 28 is be enthusiastic. And he said that his dad, he found this paper that his dad had written when he was 85 years old, and it was how to celebrate your senior year. So if any of you guys, I unfortunately do not, and it just breaks my heart, but if any of you guys still have like your grandparents living or your parents are older, you should totally share this with them, because I just thought this was so amazing. So this is what his dad wrote, 9 ways to celebrate your senior years. Stay alive and don't quit dreaming. Find new ideas and set new goals. Who at 85 says they're setting new goals? Like, not a lot of people, I feel like. Number 2, don't give over to defeat and discouragement. Things are not as bad as you think. Number 3, never think you're too old. Moses was 80 and led 3.5 million people out of captivity. So you're never too old. I also think, wasn't Moses the one who had like 1 million kids when he was 80 years old or something? So you're never too old. Number 4, never think you've lost your youthfulness. Your years have given you both experience and wisdom to share with others. Number 5, never think you're not needed or important. Everyone you meet needs a smile and some words. Number 6, never stop trying. Persistence always wins. Your candle may be burned down, but it's not burnt out. Don't complain because you're gray or bald. A lot of people haven't lived that long. How true is that? I just think that's so good. Number 7, keep your spirit of praise and constantly think about the goodness of God. Your attitude, not your aptitude, determines your spiritual altitude. One of my very favorite things. Your attitude, not your aptitude, determines your spiritual altitude. Number 8, love God more each day. He's with you. He has no losers, just quitters. You're near the winning line, so just hold on to get there. And then the last one is try to leave a memorial that will live on and on. Love, kind words, thoughtfulness, faith, vision, and charitable gifts are the things that always live on and on. And it was cool because when John said that he found this, he was like, man, that's exactly what my dad did. And so it really makes you think, honestly, no matter how old you are, these are just good. I don't know. These just gave me like the warm feel good. So hopefully they did you too. And then the last lesson that he learned from his dad is to express gratitude to God and to others always. And so just always having a heart and a mind of gratitude. And actually read something on Facebook this morning that Diana Kokoska posted, and she said someone had said to her they were fed up. Did you all read that, Rochelle, with all the Zooms and all the other stuff that they had going on in their life? And she told them to say a grateful every hour on the hour. And I was like, man, I wish somebody would have told me that before. How good of an idea is that? So if you have like a trial or something that you know that you're going to have, you've got something hard going on in your life or a rough day, what about setting your phone and saying a grateful every hour on the hour? Pretty sure that would like whip your little butt right into shape. Because there is a lot to be grateful for, even when we don't think that there is. So I hope you guys love those as much as I did. So if you already listened to number 1 and number 2, go back and listen to parts 3 and 4. Usually he talks for about 20 or 30 minutes. And I would say that is your homework for the week. And also if you have kids or family members, I would share those with them because it's just great lessons for everybody. So I didn't get to read the chat, but thank you guys so much for being on. Have a great rest of your week. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you, Dina.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Jennifer. See you guys hopefully actually at 11, Jennifer and Monica. Okay, see you. Bye. Have a good week.